question, though. Has he brought it up since that bedtime?
Oh, yeah. He has a police car that he plays with. And now when he plays with it, he goes, Mommy needs to slow down. Because that's what the man said.
Welcome to the Holy Mess Podcast. I'm Becca.
And I'm Joy.
If you think you're a mess, you are not alone. We talk about the things of life through a lens of faith and find the hope in all of it.
This week, Becca makes a friend in a very unexpected place. I had an embarrassing moment in front of my toddler, and we're going to remind you of why you are not alone. But first, it's time for our mess of the week.
So, surprise, surprise, my messy moment is not only related to being a caregiver, but also has to do with an awkward interaction. 2-for-1 deal. I went to Walgreens the other day because I was getting my flu shot and also my COVID booster. And there was another woman waiting, and Walgreens had kind of messed something up with the staffing issue. So we ended up waiting, I think, over 45 minutes just to get our shots that we had scheduled. But it ended up being okay because of this conversation I had with the person waiting.
I love that you talked to her at all.
Well, it started out with her saying, "Oh, do you want me to put a mask on?" I still wear them because I thought maybe since it's like a medical thing, maybe it'd be expected. I don't always wear them, but I had one on and I was like, oh, no, it's okay. And she goes, okay, I just want to make sure that you weren't immunocompromised or anything. I go, oh, no, but I really appreciate you asking because my husband is, but please don't worry about it. It's all good. And so we start having this conversation about my husband's medical issues. And if you're new to the podcast, you can text the word Joey to 91979. That gives the full backstory, but it's been a really complicated 6.5 years. And in fact, as we record this podcast, Joey is actively in the hospital.
It's been a really rough last couple days.
Yes. So I kind of tell her a little bit of his story, and then we're still making small talk because there's a lot of time to kill at this Walgreens. And I was like, oh, is this your third COVID shot or your fourth? Because the booster thing, And she goes, oh, it's my third. I meant to get one last year, but there were extenuating circumstances. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. She goes, I appreciate you saying that. And because you shared with me, I know how you feel because my brother had a chronic illness his entire life and he passed away around this time last year.
Oh, she is walking into the holidays with that.
Yes. And so my heart just breaks for her. But we start having this long conversation talking about things that, and this is actually going to be a part of my mess and bless later on, but there are just circumstances in life where not everyone, even the people that you love the most in your inner circle, are going to understand what you're going through. Maybe it is being a caregiver to someone who's ill. Maybe it's being a single parent. Maybe it's walking through your own health issues. And there's just something really almost like a relief that washes over you whenever you come across someone who intimately knows what you go through, even a complete stranger. And we're comparing stories and comparing like the terrible things people have said to us. And eventually she gets called for her shot. And I'm like, this is weird, but can I give you a hug? Becca! Sure, absolutely. And so we hugged.
Oh my goodness. What was her name?
I don't remember, but
Becca,
I'll never forget her.
You forgot her already.
I know, I don't even remember what she looks like.
But you did embrace her, which is very sweet.
I did, and I wish we had gotten contact information, but if for nothing else, it was what I needed. Oh, the best part of it, too, was before she walked away, she goes, I want you to know that I know how hard it is, and you're doing a good job.
Oh, that would make anyone cry.
It wrecked me. So you can see why I gave her a hug then. Because
well, yeah.
It was exactly what I needed.
God sent her as some kind of angel because what are the odds that you wait for 45 minutes with someone who's walked a very similar path? That just seems too intentional.
I know. I texted my husband and I was like, I had to wait 45 minutes for my shots, but it was totally worth it. He's like, what kind of craziness are you spewing right now, girl? I'm like, I'll tell you later. It's fine.
Oh, that's so sweet. My mess this week is not as sweet. My son was in the back seat this weekend and my husband was gone for work. We were on our way back home when I got pulled over, which is not fun. And normally you start to panic in the car.
Was it for speeding?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
How fast were you going?
Let's not get into details.
Moment of truth. This is the best part because I heard a very brief snippet of this story on the air, and so now I need to dig deeper because it's the podcast.
I didn't know that the small town near Rebecca and I live, the whole thing is 30 miles an hour. The whole thing. I was going apparently 45. He said he clocked me at that on his radar, but he was actively driving past me the other way, so I don't know how he could have had his radar gun active.
I would have said, sir, you shouldn't be distracted driving with your radar gun.
Well, you can't question a police officer in front of your toddler.
Yep, okay.
So what I quickly discovered is normally when I'm like, oh no, it's happening, you get so frustrated because he literally went past me and turned on his lights immediately, whipped around into my lane behind me. Yeah, I just pulled off immediately. But seeing it through the eyes of my 2.5-year-old, his eyes get so big and he gets so scared because the bright lights are behind us. I've pulled over. I'm clearly a little frazzled. And they shine this bright light in the car. I think they do that for everybody now. And so in order to calm him down, I had to narrate the situation, which is really embarrassing because I found myself saying things like, well, there are rules on the road and it's a police officer's job to keep the rules. And unfortunately, Mommy has broken one of those rules and Mommy has to pay the price.
This officer is not scaring us. I just did all the wrong things.
Right? And he comes to the window and I'm trying to get my stuff and I don't even know what's the thing called? Registration. I don't know what that looks like. I can never find it. I have like 900 things in my glove compartment and I'm not changing. I'm not going to sort it out tomorrow. So we eventually find it. He was actually very, very kind, which sometimes they're pretty gruff. And he said how fast I was going. And so then we had to wait a long time. My son just kept asking questions. So I kept reinforcing that police officers keep us safe and he's trying to keep us safe. And Mommy's learning a hard lesson. And then thankfully, he only gave me a warning on the speed, which I was grateful for. I had just pulled out. I mean, 40-something's not fast, but it was obviously faster than I should have been going. And he gave me a fix-it ticket because I don't have the right address on my license. And I can't keep up with these things. I'm just trying to keep my kid alive.
How long have you lived in your house?
I don't want to say.
How long?
Longer than my kid's been alive. That's how long. And so if I don't get the right kind of license in a few weeks, I have to pay a really hefty fine. So, I was spending all weekend trying to figure that out. But as we pull away, my son even talked to the officer. He was so nice. I rolled the window down and I said, you have a fan back here. And I was trying to ease the tension. Yeah. And as I pulled away, my son just goes, we need to tell Daddy about this. A little bit traumatized, kind of like the car wash in a previous episode.
Oh my goodness!
When he was going to bed, all he kept saying was "blue lights, officers keep us safe." Oh. He just kept saying it over and over, and I'm like, well, at least I left him with something positive because I'm pretty upset about it.
Question though, has he brought it up since that bedtime?
Oh yeah, he has a police car that he plays with, and now when he plays with it, he goes, "Mommy needs to slow down," because that's what the man said.
Amazing. And now on to our mental health moment.
Today, I'm going to share with you something that I just talked about at my church with a couple of moms, because I have been in a season where it just feels overwhelming. I don't know if anybody else relates to that.
Me.
We're heading towards the holidays, which only gets crazier. And for a lot of people, there's a lot of emotion wrapped up in the holidays. And so God has just been reminding me that He sees us in our pain. He sees us when we feel like nobody does. So my husband's had to work a lot of weekends recently. I'm uber pregnant, in case you didn't know. Like, baby's coming right after Christmas. And I have a toddler. And so the weekends have been hard and long and exhausting and honestly isolating. I think there's a lot of times you can even be with somebody else, or we talked to Dr. Greg Smalley last week in a marriage, and some of those seasons still you can feel so alone. And I was feeling that this weekend and pretty emotional. And one of my girlfriends said, well, we know God's always with us. That Christmas theme, Emmanuel, is God with us. He was born as a baby to be with us physically here on earth. But we believe He's always with us everywhere that we go. And so I was literally doing laundry, which feels like it never ends, right? You can't.
Yeah.
I mean, do you do it like regularly during the week?
Sorry, it's kind of all over the place, and I can't remember the last time I did it.
Oh, that shows your season, though. Really I think I need to come do your laundry.
And also, Joey is the folder in our house, and he's been really sick, and so nothing's gotten folded. So I'm like, I don't even know it's clean right now.
That's how it gets really bad, right? I'll be like, did I wash that? It's going to get rewashed just in case, because you literally can't tell. Well, I try to save mine up for the weekends. That's not working out well, especially once we have 2 kids. That's not going to work. And I can't even reach the clothes right now. I got a new top loader. I listened to Becca, and I should have tested it out in the store, but I'm too short to reach the bottom of the washer. And if I got on a stool, that would work, but my belly's in the way. So the only way I can do laundry is with a claw machine.
A reacher grabber. Yeah. That's what it is. It's a reacher grabber for old people. I get it in
there, and I'm pulling the clothes out, and I'm like, I'm such a mess. I'm a disaster. My kid's wreaking havoc in the next room, and I feel so unseen and unappreciated because my husband is doing great things. He's a pastor. He's leading a retreat. And I'm like, must be nice. They're all worshiping Jesus. And I'm over here.
My reacher grabber.
That's right. I'm over here just trying to stuff more clothes in the dryer and praying it all gets dry. And moments like that, you can get frustrated. You can feel bitter. And in feeling unseen, that thing my girlfriend said came to mind, that God is always with us. And I literally tried to picture him in the room with me. And as crazy as this sounds, I just felt seen, because I know that God sees every sacrifice we make for people that we love, even if they don't say thank you or nobody else sees it. God sees the endless to-do lists that come with the holidays, the pain that might come with it, and that he's present in it with us makes it feel less isolating.
There are moments of my life that I'll sometimes think to myself, I wish this were a movie so everyone could see how dramatic it is. And so having that perspective, I mean, aside from the fact that I'd be like, Jesus, can you please help out with these clothes right now?
Oh, yeah.
It helps shift it to know that you're not unseen and you're not alone. It's something we say all the time. It's something we know, but to actually put that into practical use, I think is helpful for lonely seasons, which we all have, no matter how many people you have in your life.
No, that's so true. And I love this story out of the Bible. This is what I shared with the women this morning about Hagar. If you've not heard about her, she is honestly a really unfortunate character in the Bible. She is owned by a family. She's not treated properly, but God pursues her in a really beautiful way. And so if you want to read it at any point, Genesis 16 is her story, but she runs away because she's being mistreated and abused with her family. And God finds her in the desert, and she has such an encounter with him. She didn't know anything about God before. She didn't really come from a Christian background. But when she has finished interacting with God, she says, I just met the God who sees me. And that she was in a desert in her pain. She was literally running, and he pursues her. I just love that vision. And so if you need that today, if you need that in the holidays, I just hope you can remember that we have a God who sees when nobody else does. And he's so present, and he has a bigger picture even when we can't fathom it, and it's really hard. So that's been encouraging me lately, and I hope it does the same for your mental health in a season where, frankly, most of us struggle.
And on to our mess and bless of the week. My mess and bless could be interchangeable, honestly. It's media I've consumed in the last week that I have a love-hate relationship with for both of them for different reasons.
Okay.
So what I'm choosing for my mess is a show that's new on Netflix called From Scratch.
Oh, I saw previews for this.
Yes.
It looks so good, but it looks a little too This Is Us-y, and I think I'll cry too much.
It's Zoe Saldana, and it's emotionally scarring. And
what? Okay, at that point, I'm out.
But the reason it's my mess is because it is very emotional. It deals with, and this isn't too big of a spoiler because they tease it in the first episode, but
I think in the previews too, I can tell what's going to happen.
Yes. So she falls in love with a man while abroad in Italy.
I was totally into that part.
They have a beautiful love story and relationship, but he gets sick. And so it's their journey through his cancer diagnosis, through repeat scans, through surgeries. And as you can imagine, being a caregiver myself, it hit home in a lot of ways.
And probably for you more than most people because you've been in the hospital with someone you love getting scans.
So the messy part of it is that I chose to put myself through this where I'm crying on the couch when no one's home. But I
felt like you had to finish it.
Yes. I still have one more episode left, but I wanted to share just a little bit about a particular scene that really got to me. Because he's going in for his first surgery. And so his wife, is there with his wedding ring around her neck on a chain, which I've done before because you can't have your wedding ring on during surgery. And her family's there, his family's there. And of course, the families have their own stresses that they bring into the situation, but they're asking her questions and they're like, well, when is it going to be done? What do you know? What do you like? Kind of overwhelming her. And she just has to step away. And you can just, the acting is so good because you can see her grief in her face as she's trying to hold all of these people up while the person she loves the most is in this scary surgery.
And no one is holding her up.
Yes. And then the doctor comes out and it's too early, so everyone panics, but it's good news. And Joy, these are real life scenes from my life.
Really?
It was like someone filmed me. And I was as beautiful as Zoe Saldana.
You are, girl. If you believe it.
She plays a 19-year-old in the beginning of this, and she's 42, and she pulls it off, girl. I'm telling you.
Really?
But so it's my mess because it was really emotionally jarring. I chose myself to put myself through it. Sorry, guys. We're recording this at the end of the day. It's been a day.
You can tell.
But I've been taking notes on the episode because there are things that are said that I'm like, I needed that.
Ooh.
And there was one that someone was saying to her, caregiving is hard enough without the guilt. Because she's also later in another episode having to juggle, okay, well, you're going to sit with him at the hospital and I'm going to be home with our daughter and I'm going to do this and you're going to do this. Okay, and what is next Friday? Okay, I'll go to work this day and then I'll see if I can get... And it's just that constant balance and juggling that I know you've had to do as a mom too.
But not quite to that extent. Becca's doing it today. Can I just brag on her? She was at the hospital with her husband this morning and then is coming in and trying to balance all the things that are happening at work. And there's so much to juggle that even when you get really good at compartmentalizing, which I know you've had to, that absolutely takes a toll on somebody. Yeah. So the fact that you got to see someone else schedule the caregiving, I'm sure that was like, oh, this is really hard.
It was, you can see why it's my mess because it's messing with me, but I would recommend it if you think you can handle it. Only disclaimer I'll give is it's probably the equivalent of a PG-13 rating.
Do you think I can emotionally handle it?
Nope. I don't think anyone can, but some of us choose to put ourselves through that pain.
Some of us should. My mess this week is the fact that grocery stores are so short on people helping check you out that self-checkouts are going to take over even more.
That's your mess.
You don't hate them?
I love the self-checkout line.
What?
Joy, I don't want to have small talk with someone that's going to judge me on my purchasing decisions.
I don't care if Jeff judges me. I just want him to scan all 900 items because I'm not a professional.
I am an introvert and I just like not making, I just like to get in, get my cheese, scan it and get out.
That's the thing. It's great if you go in for like one or two purchases. But when I have a cart of 40 items and a toddler that wants to throw them on the ground.
Let him scan them.
No, and it's so tiny, like where you have to put them in the bags and stuff. So there's a story of a guy in Chattanooga who was so flustered checking out that he doesn't know how to put stuff in the bags. None of us do. If you're going to do this, you need to offer free courses on how to properly bag. I would attend one. And he failed to double bag some of his items, and then some of the bags split in the parking lot, and he lost a bunch of his Thanksgiving groceries. And he said, unfortunately, there's a lot of customers out here who just can't replace the workers. I'm Exhibit A. We're not good at this. Me and this poor man, we're not good at bagging. My husband is, so he likes self-checkout because he used to work as a bagger.
My husband, same. So he knows exactly what he's doing. But I still, if I'm solo buying groceries, I'll 100% pick self-checkout still. And I think it's because I have a traumatic story, not like that guy, but about going through a regular line.
Oh?
There's one time I went to buy a pregnancy test, as one does, and the sweet old woman checking me out goes, "Are we hopeful?" And I'm like, "No."
You're like, how do I answer that?
So awkward. She like all of a sudden was like acting like she was going to have a grandkid with me.
Oh my goodness. That's almost as bad as being like, are you pregnant when you see someone?
Joy, it was so, I just could not believe that she asked that. And I was like 22 at the time, newly married, didn't want to have that conversation.
I actually can't believe you've been in public since. This is like a big accomplishment. That's so terrible.
My bless this week, like I said, my mess and bless, there are things I love and hate about both. But my bless is definitely the new Black Panther movie, Wakanda Forever.
Ooh, don't hate me. I still haven't seen the first one. It's too long.
It's on Disney Plus, girl.
It's 1,000 hours long, as is this new one. But I've heard such good things, and I have always been a fan of Chadwick Boseman, which is why I know this one's got to be sad.
Yeah, watch the first one. It's fantastic. I will say this, before I get into the positive, I'll say this. The second one could be like 40 minutes shorter.
40 minutes?
There was, minor spoiler, not that big of a spoiler, minor spoiler. There's way too much mermaid content. Like, way too much mermaid content.
Maids? Oh, where'd those come from? I thought this happened in outer space. Does it not?
No, Wakanda is in Africa.
In America, in the world?
In America. Not in the real world.
On Earth is what I'm trying to say. It is? I thought this was like, because it's in the Marvel universe, I thought they had their own Wakanda planet.
No, some things are in outer space, but Wakanda is in Africa.
With mermaids. I don't understand. I'm more out now.
The villains are mermaids, and that's where you lost me a little bit, to be honest. I was like, there's just way too much mermaid content. But aside from that, it really was, you mentioned Chadwick Boseman. He passed away before this movie. A lot of people were wondering how they deal with it. And it was kind of a beautiful picture of how his castmates probably walked through their own grief, because in the movie, he passes from a mysterious illness off screen, without sharing with many people that he was sick.
That's probably the best way to handle it, because that's really what happened.
That's what happened. But you could just tell in some scenes, or they are fantastic actresses and actors, but you could see that there was real grief that came with saying goodbye to him and his storyline. And there was one part, again, minor spoilers. I say this because I know Marvel fans, how they be. His sister, who is the protagonist of this film, she says something like, I'd be fine just to see the world burn. And it's like that's real sometimes, how we feel when seasons are hard. And for her, losing so many people close to her brother who she loved and adored and the king of her country, to just have to work through that grief, work through those complex feelings, and figure out how to rise above and move on. Not that you ever move on, but carry his mantle forward.
It does seem really beautiful. Someone else I talked to said the whole first 15 minutes felt like they were dedicated to Chadwick, which I think is probably the right way to go about it. And to start that way, again, so sad. I don't think I can handle any more sadness.
Do you know what scene made me cry maybe the most? Was the Marvel opening credits. Because usually, when it's zooming out, and you see all the characters, and it's like Marvel.
And they flash through the letters, right?
Yes, they flash through like comic books. This one was all Chadwick. So instead of showing Iron Man and Captain America and Black Widow, it was all Chadwick.
Oh, that's such a way to honor him.
And it was so moving, and I just didn't expect it, and I was like,
that's how it started.
Yes,
they're like, buckle
up. But then the mermaids were like, okay, I can emotionally recover a little bit.
No. My bless this week is all about TikTok. It's not even an app that I use, but there's so much good that does happen on it. There was a guy who tends to get a lot of followers on TikTok at Walmart, and he noticed this sweet elderly woman named Nola, and she was in the break room literally sitting down trying to catch her breath, because I think she's in her early 80s. And he got a chance to talk to her, and she said, well, I don't have enough money to retire, and that's what's holding me here, so I need to keep working. And he posted online and just said, life shouldn't be this hard. We need to help this woman out. And $170,000 later, Nola's retiring from Walmart.
So she put it on TikTok, and everyone's like, oh, I got this, GoFundMe style. We're going to take care of this woman?
Yes, I think everyone was like, Nola is my grandmother now in my heart. And so her daughter reached out online and said, I just want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart for what you did for me and for my family. This is one of the kindest things I've ever seen. And I love when people choose to use their social media platforms not to sell diet teas, but instead to say, there's something wrong here in the world. If enough of us say something about it and take action, can we right it? And they did for this woman. And I have so much respect for people who work at Walmart. Not a lot of people know this, and I hope my dad's okay with me sharing it. But in a season where my dad was without work, he worked at Walmart as a greeter, and he loved it.
Your dad
thrived.
Oh, yes.
He loves people. It was around Halloween, and every day he would send me a picture going into the Halloween aisles with a different crazy mask on because he was having so much fun, and everybody knew his name, and he found it as another way to share the love of Jesus. And I think no matter where you are, you can look around you and find people to bless, and I'm grateful for the people who loved on my dad in that season.
I think I'm going to use this TikTok story as my excuse for continuing my TikTok addiction. And I don't need to spend less time on TikTok because good thing happens sometimes, right?
No, Becca, you need to get off it. Thank you so much for listening. If you got something out of this episode, we would love if you would share it with a friend. To be notified every time there's a new episode, simply text the word MESS, MESS, to 91979. And if you have anything you want to share with us, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at holymess@wayfm.com. Thanks for being a part of our messy family.